Next, we have a speaker who knows how to bring ideas to life, both through digital transformation and the power of storytelling. Adam is an associate partner at IBM, where he helps organizations take innovative ideas and turn them into real, impactful business solutions. Beyond his expertise in digital transformation, he's also a seasoned storyteller with a background in marketing, content creation, and leadership. In 2021, he published a book, From No to How, and recently served as a judge in the Content Marketing Awards, showcasing his passion for helping others communicate ideas in a way that drives action. Today, Adam is here to share his insights on what to do with all that data you've collected. So let's give him a warm welcome.
Thank you very much. Hopefully soon you'll see how all that comes together and who I am. So before I get into the actual talk itself, I wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to come down and speak. Obviously, I really like doing these sorts of things, and my claim to fame in this industry is that I actually helped make the first podcast for Optiro, who you can see over there underneath Snowden, underneath Datamine. I don't know, is Ian Glacken still here? No, I think he might have disappeared. He's not. Oh, he does work a lot. But that's my claim to fame here. If anyone's heard that podcast, you've heard my voice. That was fun to help them set up way back when. The other people I'd like to thank, just quickly before I get into it, is two of my great team members who have been helping me from one of our internal divisions in IBM, Daniela and Connor. They've been involved. They're from our Future Lab, which is our ECU collaboration, where we get lots of great talent in. We train them up, we make them industry ready, and hopefully hire them as well. So thank you to you guys. They've done an amazing job in helping me actually get this done. So you heard a little bit about my background, as you see it on my LinkedIn. In terms of what I do every day at IBM, so IBM, everyone knows the name, but probably you don't know exactly what we do. It's an absolutely enormous organisation. You know, globally it's 240,000 people. But what does that mean in Perth? What does that mean for me and for you right now? So I'm from the consulting division. That basically means we're technology agnostic. We don't sell our own products from the technology division, nor do we have to use the research from the research division, but we can. And the idea is that my team, we help companies, no matter what industry it is, so I work in resources, build products. So my expertise is in building product, right? So what does that mean? Taking an idea, taking a problem that has a value case and turning it into something that is then solved, usually through the production of software, but not always. Sometimes it's a change in process. Sometimes it is a piece of paper or a training course or whatever. So I want you to just think about that and about that process of going from your problem, defining its value statement, thinking about solutions, and then delivering something. And some of the things I'm going to share with you now, yes, it's about data, because this is a very data-intensive industry and there's a lot there. But I want to give you a few free things that you can take away, and hopefully you can start to do a little bit of the things that we do at work every day, which is super fun and engaging. So on some of the slides, I know some of you have already got your phones out, I'm going to give you a gift because there's a QR code on several of the slides, and whatever I'm talking about at that point, you can actually download the original source of. Okay, so some of the things that I'm going to give you are freebies that you can take away and use to train yourself and your team, or it might be a white paper, or it might be something else. So if you see a QR code come up in the top corner, feel free to snap that and download the source information. Okay, so data everywhere. I think we've got an industry where we've built the ability to collect data endlessly, and this is across all industries. However, we are really poor in general in using it and in getting value from it, deriving value from it. So I want to take you through some research to start off. This is from our global IBV, so the I can't remember what that stands for, but basically Institute of Business Value, I think it is, from IBM. It's a bit of a research arm that we have. And this data that we have here comes from a survey of 13,000 business leaders around the world from all different industries. So take it for what you will. It's quite generic, but the lessons are applicable. So we have the main story is that 87% of CEOs consider data a strategic asset. But the challenge we see is that most of the time there are not the strategies in place to actually get the value from that asset. We're very good at collecting data at the operational level. Usually data is collected just enough, just in time for the process that you're undertaking, and that's perfectly fair from the individual user's point of view, right? You never collect more than you need to, is a good idea. And we can sometimes use that for tactical gains, but very rarely do we see organizations turning that into a strategic asset, right? So you might have data on safety, or you might have data on production, or you might have data on sales. What are you doing with that, and how do you elevate that? How do you start using it for decision making? How do you use it? Maybe you want to sell it, or anything like that. The other aspect here is that we've been moving down this pathway of technology, and it's changing what we're able to do in industry. So obviously, if you look on the left of the chart, you've got everything going back to the manufacturing era, mainframes and all that great stuff. We're launching the first spaceship into space around this time. And as we go forward, we start to get more and more technology available to us. So desktop computing, we talked a lot today about Excel sheets. This is sort of the era they come from, the late 80s, early 90s. And we've all just lived through the business intelligence phase, with dashboards and all that, and everyone's had enough of that. And now we're moving into the next phase where we're going to see a lot of excitement and then probably a trough of disappointment, and that's the AI insights generation era. So at the moment, everyone is super, super excited about generative AI. Obviously, there are lots of different types of artificial intelligence. IBM will tell you that they've been doing it for 60 years in various guises, but it's really just about, at the moment, the hype is just about the generative AI. But what that allows us to do is to start thinking about, well, how are we going to use this capability to try again to leverage our data and get something useful out of it, right? Because the data on its own is not what we're after. We're after the value that we can derive from it. From this research, we found that there's probably they like to break it into quadrants, and you can see that there's a group of CEOs that excel at using data as a strategic asset, and you can see on the chart over here it says they're the torchbearer CEOs. That's what they've been called here. Most organizations are down here at the bottom, and that's probably natural. Not all organizations need to use data as a strategic asset, nor will they have the maturity or develop the rhythms and put the money into doing that. But what we see in the research, and again, I'll give you the link for this in a moment, is that the torchbearer CEOs are doing three things really well. They're focusing on using that technology advantage, whether that's AI or what we call intelligent automation. Intelligent automation is a bit of a buzzword, but really what it means is don't just automate for the sake of it, and don't just automate the simple thing. Automate along the value chain. So not within your silo. Think about the entire business and automate that way. That way you get that real synergy across all of your different functions. The other thing that these torchbearer CEOs are doing is they are building platforms and ecosystems that will help them leverage their strategic data assets. So what that means is instead of trying to do point solutions to develop their data, they might develop a platform with data products. So data products is, again, it's a bit of jargon, but basically it's like a pre-processed source of data that you can use that anyone can start leveraging within their organization without needing to be a data scientist, without needing to go directly to the source to get it. And the last thing that they're doing is they're thinking about, and this may or may not be irrelevant to your industry, whichever sort of organization you're in, but they're thinking about how do we actually build new markets and new business models based on that data. So you may be able to sell, I'll give you a consumer example, like Uber. Uber uses its data to, its travel time data to work out how to best get cars to the people who need to get in them. However, they also sell their data to governments to help tell them about real-time travel times in their municipalities. So if they wanted to look at How are roads being used? Where are they having pinch points at different times of the day? Uber has a lot of probes out in the street. Those probes are their drivers, and they're collecting data all the time. So that's just a little example about how some people are finding secondary use cases for the data. So those are the torch bearers. And we can see that in general, they outstrip the performance of their laggard peers, or aspirational CEOs as we call them, on innovation, on managing change, revenue and profitability. Okay, so like I said, over the last 10 years, everyone's had their data made accessible. It's in the cloud. It's you've got access to your SAP or whatever you're using. What's stopping you from seeing that value? This is the hard part. Because just because we have the data doesn't mean we can actually use it. This is your first QR code. What we're seeing is that data is often untapped. We're seeing that only around 2/3 of data is actually available to be used. It's very common that you need to go to multiple systems to actually use that data. And if you need to be a data scientist or a data engineer or a developer to actually use that data, connect it to integrate it with something that you're using, not that easy. The quality of data, like I said, data is usually collected for a specific purpose, and it's usually just enough in quality and just enough in volume to get through whatever process that person is doing. Using it for a secondary purpose, you often discover that you have a new constraint in your system, and that's usually data quality. And the last one is value. Those surveyed, only 39% are using or managing that data as a business asset. Again, this will depend on which industry you're in and which company you're in about whether or not you need to do that. But you can see that in general, less than half of organizations are really thinking about this. So what I want to do now, we've gone through sort of some of the theory around, what do mature companies do. I've gone through some of the issues around why is this hard. Now I want to make you all into little product managers and give you a few tools that you can take away now and use straight away and do like we do at IBM and build awesome products. So the first thing I want to walk through is a few concepts, and again, there'll be a few more QR codes coming up in a minute. In our model, we call it the garage model. It's basically our branded sort of go-to-market method. But essentially, it comes down to three things. We've got desirability. Whatever product we're building, do people want to use it? We've got viability. Does the business want to support it? Can it justify supporting it? And feasibility. Can the team that's here, not any team, can the team we've got available, can they build it? Right? That's really important. That last bit is not that it's possible for someone else, is it possible for us? And can we maintain that? So in the Agile delivery box, this is sort of your feasibility. That's where I was just talking about that. We like to... Has anyone heard of Agile before? Yeah? So there's a lot of buzz around Agile, and there has been for a long time. It's about 30 years old as a delivery mechanism or like philosophy. But essentially what it says is, how do we learn faster? How do we deliver value faster? And how do we cut waste? Okay, and there's a lot of ways that you can do that. Part of it is in the ways that you organize your team. Part of it is the ways you plan. But there are also other ways that you can do that, and that's by using technology accelerators. So for example, one of the teams that, say, Connor, one of our, like I said, our Future Lab team is from, is to use low code. So a low code platform is something like, for example, you might have heard of Microsoft Power Platform. It's something that comes with most of your enterprise licenses. You can build relatively simple apps very, very quickly. For those of you who know how to use ChatGPT and YouTube, you can probably create your own apps. Okay, so it's a bit like drag and drop. It looks like PowerPoint where you're dragging elements onto the canvas, but then it suddenly is software, right? So that's at its lowest level. It can go a lot further than that, but how do you use low code to prototype something? How do you build something really quickly, work out whether or not it's a dumb idea first? Because most of the time when you're building software or building a product, the hard part is not building the product, the actual software itself. It's about getting it adopted. It's making sure that the users on the other end of it can actually use it as part of their flow. Remember, I said we optimize for the value stream, not for the silo. That's the hard part. And the faster you get to that point, the better. If you've done it really cheaply and you've done it with software that you've already got available to you, that you don't need to go through a procurement process for, that you don't need to get a specialist developer for, hey, you're already a lot closer. There are loads of different examples. That's just one. But you should be thinking about how can I go faster, whether that's about cutting waste, developing a smaller product, using an accelerator of some sort, and so on. The next one is design thinking. Daniela, my other helper for building this pack, is a designer. And design thinking is all around how do we make our product desirable? How do we build the thing that people actually want? Right? So there's lots of techniques about how you do that. Running workshops. Is it about using different techniques around prototyping? Is it about how we conduct user testing and so on and so on? These are all in design thinking, and you'll see a QR code soon. And the last one is the value models. This is often overlooked by software teams, which is a really bad idea. Don't overlook why the business wants you to build the product, because if you do, they're probably going to can it, and then all the value you think you've created just goes in the bin. Okay, so value models, we have a value model that we use in IBM that can help you sort of quantify things and align it to, more or less any company's value drivers. However, you don't need to overcomplicate these things. The main thing is you've thought about it, you've had a go, you've discussed it with your manager or your leaders, and work out what they actually care about. If you can do that, the chance of you succeeding already goes up. You're more likely to get support as well, and funding. All right, so design thinking. I told you there was a QR code coming, and there it is. So I want to talk to you about one concept, and that is what we call the loop. But if anyone's heard of double diamond before, this is very similar to that. This is a design thinking sort of method or mentality. The idea being that we are learning by doing, and we're then going to do what we've learned. So essentially there's three parts to it. They're not coloured up, but this part of it here is called observe. This part in the middle is called reflect. And this part is called make. And you can see that the little ball that's going around is going around and around and around, because in Agile and in software development and product development, what we love to do is to develop something, give it to a user, see what they like about it, and half the time it doesn't work the first time, and that's okay, because we've done a really thin slice and it's really small and we've gone really fast and we learn heaps. And the idea being that once we've observed them, we come back and we reflect again, we observe again, and we try again. And in small concentric loops, our product gets better and better and better. Or if you find out there's no value, that's okay. You haven't spent too much time on it and you move on to something else. But the idea of the loop is that it helps you remember that software in particular, but most things in business, are not one-way conversations. Okay, you put your Gantt chart up on the wall and you think it's one way. It very rarely is, and you can often leave a lot of value on the table by not allowing that extra loop to learn. All right, the next one is thinking about, like I just said, the loops to learn. This is a pretty complicated picture, but it's a really simple concept. The idea is, this is our garage methodology, again, another different QR code. The idea here is that you should think about your product in at least 3 stages. The first stage is, what do I need to solve? All right, so this is the what part, the co-create. And co-create, as it sounds, should be done with users. It should be done with the development team. It should be done with managers. It should be done with your customers, whoever is involved. Anyone who has anything to do with your product should at least be spoken to a little bit. And the idea is that you define what you're trying to solve for. By the end of this, we like to develop a bit of a prototype or an MVP to say, hey, if it looked a bit like this, would that be enough? Is that solving your problem? And if they say no, you're completely in the wrong place. We haven't spent too much time. The number one source of waste in software is people building stuff that gets thrown in the bin. Right? People talk about, I can develop this thing 10% faster, or I've managed to find a different vendor that's 5% cheaper. It actually doesn't matter, because if you throw it in the bin, it's 100% waste. And so the idea of this is, we might only waste 10%. And that's okay, because then we can start again and get closer and closer. Once we've developed the idea and we say, yes, this is the prototype that we want to go forward with, we then go into what we call co-execute. Again, the co bit being cooperative, working together with our users and our subject matter experts. We develop the first version, the first working version. And the first working version is not just a prototype or a proof of concept. It should be good enough to go into someone's hands and use in the real world. After that, it's all about how many more loops do we want to do? How many more times do we want to get better and better? Maybe you nailed it first time. Pretty unlikely, but it could happen. And that goes back to your value conversation as well. How much more time do you have to put into this? All right, now the last thing I wanted to show you was a bit of a parting gift. This is a little bit of a gimmick, but if you haven't heard enough from me yet, what we did is we fed in some of the information that we've shared with the QR codes into something called Google Notebook LM and turn it into a podcast. So if you want to listen to this on the bus home, scan that and you'll be able to listen to that. So what it does is it turns it into a podcast that is, two different hosts talking about concepts, and they really break things down really well. This is a great tool, Google Notebook LM. If you want to feed in public documentation, must be public. You got to get your make sure that you're not feeding in corporate information. Like for example, legislation. Help me understand legislation that's been written, or the JORC code, or something else like that. Awesome. Hundreds of pages down to a 20-minute conversation. I've pulled out all the key things, and I'm ready to have a conversation with someone in person. Annual reports. Chuck them in. What are the top 10 priorities of this company this year? Bang, I'm ready for my sales call. And so on and so on. It's a bit of a gimmick, but it's actually a really good way to learn. I can listen to this while I'm walking here, while I'm on the bus, while I'm on the plane, blah, 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 blah. All right. That is my parting gift to you, and I hope you got some of those other QR codes. But with that, I will stop talking and ask you if you've got any questions.